You're standing in the back of a wedding venue, and the bride's father is walking her down the aisle. The song is playing, somebody's phone is held up filming the whole thing, and right at the exact second she takes his arm, something happens behind your eyes that you didn't ask for and can't really stop. Your throat tightens. Your vision goes soft and blurry around the edges. A drop of salt water rolls down your cheek, and you didn't decide for that to happen. You weren't hurt. Nothing was burning your eyes. You were just standing there watching two people you maybe don't even know that well, and your body decided this was a moment worth leaking over. So here's the question that should bother you a little once you actually sit with it. Why does that happen? Why does a feeling, pride, grief, relief, even pure joy trigger an actual physical fluid response from glands behind your eyeballs? Your dog doesn't do this. Your cat definitely doesn't do this. Even chimpanzees, who share something like 98% of your DNA and plenty of your social complexity, don't do this. As far as science can tell, when you cry at a wedding or a funeral or the end of a movie you weren't even that invested in, you are doing one of the strangest, most biologically expensive things a human body is capable of. And you've probably never once stopped to ask why. Once you actually dig into the research, the answer is way weirder than emotions, I guess. Let's start by clearing something up, because there's a mix-up baked right into the question itself. Not all tears are the same tears. Your eyes are producing fluid constantly, every single day, whether you're crying or not. That's called basal tears, a thin, continuous film that keeps your eyes lubricated and protected every time you blink. Then there's reflex tears, the kind that show up when you're chopping an onion or get smoke in your face or someone elbows you in the eye on a crowded train. Reflex tears are a defense mechanism, flushing out whatever irritant just attacked your cornea. Both of those categories exist across the entire animal kingdom. Dogs have basal tears, birds have reflex tears. Even fish produce some version of ocular fluid to protect their eyes. None of that is unique to humans, and none of it is what's actually happening at a wedding. What's happening at a wedding is the third category, the rare one, emotional tears, sometimes called psychic tears, and this is the one that, as far as researchers can currently tell, only reliably shows up in one species, yours. Emotional tears aren't triggered by an irritant or a maintenance schedule. They're triggered by a subjective internal state, a feeling, with zero physical stimulus required. Nothing touched your eye. Nothing was in the air. You just felt something, and your tear ducts responded to a feeling the same way they'd respond to a piece of dust. That's a genuinely strange wiring choice for evolution to make, and it gets stranger the more you look at the animals that almost seem to share it. Let's talk about the animals that almost cry, because you've definitely heard the claims. Elephants are the most famous one. Researchers studying orphaned elephant calves have documented their eyes welling with visible liquid during clear moments of distress, and observers, understandably, called it weeping. But here's the catch. The leading explanation isn't that elephants are producing a dedicated emotional tear response the way you do. It's that extreme stress changes their blink rate and posture, and the normal drainage system for their basal tears backs up and overflows down the face. It looks identical to crying. The mechanism behind it is different. Same thing with sea turtles and seabirds, who appear to cry constantly, except that's a salt gland clearing excess sodium from their bodies, not grief. Dogs get the closest, and this one's actually kind of sweet. A small 2022 study out of Japan measured tear volume in dogs before and after being reunited with their owners following a period of separation, and found a measurable increase in tear production tied to the reunion, plausibly linked to an oxytocin spike, the same bonding hormone that spikes in you when you hug someone you love. It's a genuinely interesting result, but even there, what's missing is the full package, a visible emotion-only tear that requires no physical trigger and shows up reliably across an entire species in response to internal feeling alone, the way it does in basically every human on Earth regardless of culture. Every almost crying example in the animal kingdom turns out to be a tear system doing something else, dressed up to look like ours. So why does ours exist at all? Here's a detail that makes this whole picture even stranger. Newborn babies cry constantly, loudly, from the very first minutes of life. But they don't produce emotional tears. Most infants don't develop the ability to cry with actual tears until somewhere around 2 to 6 weeks of age, sometimes later. Think about what that means. The loud, audible distress broadcast, the part that recruits help from far away, comes online immediately because survival can't wait for the tear ducts to mature. But the silent, visible, close-range version, the part that requires someone to actually be looking at your face to register it, develops afterward, right around the same window when a baby starts locking eyes with caregivers and building the foundation of attachment. The tears show up exactly when being seen starts to matter. So put all of that together, and you get a strange, layered picture. Humans appear to have evolved a costly, hard-to-fake, vision-impairing fluid response triggered purely by internal feeling that signals trustworthy vulnerability to people standing close enough to actually see it, switches on developmentally right as social bonding becomes possible, and may or may not also be quietly cleaning house on your stress chemistry while it's at it. That is an enormous amount of biological investment for something most of us have spent our whole lives quietly trying to suppress in public. And maybe that's the part actually worth sitting with. Somewhere along the way, a lot of us picked up the idea that crying is a malfunction, a loss of control, something to apologize for. But everything the research actually points to says the opposite. It's not a glitch. It's a feature that took an enormous evolutionary gamble on trust, betting that the benefit of being honestly, visibly vulnerable to the people around you would outweigh the risk of being temporarily blind and exposed while you felt it. For a species that survived by depending entirely on each other, that might be one of the best bets evolution ever made on our behalf. So next time you're standing at the back of a wedding venue or watching the end of a movie you swore wouldn't get to you, or sitting across from someone you love during a hard conversation and you feel that tightness behind your eyes start to build, you're not losing composure. You're running one of the rarest, oldest, most specifically human signals your body knows how to send. You're telling the people close enough to see it that you trust them enough to be undefended in front of them. No other animal on the planet does that. You're not malfunctioning. You're just being human about it.